Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode. Today I have a wonderful guest for you. His name is Robin J. Emdon, and he is the creator of Get Resultsology, the science of getting stuff done. It's a practical system designed to help solopreneurs and self-starters overcome procrastination, build momentum, and follow through on what matters most. Known as the Procrastination Slayer and the Momentum Architect, Robin helps turn scattered effort into consistent progress, one focused action at a time. Robin, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and described as wonderful. I think you're pretty wonderful too.
Well, one of the great things is you and I have met before, and I was on your show, which was lovely. I really enjoyed our first conversation. I'm starting to really get a sense of the kind of service that you bring to your space. And so it's just this really genuine, heartfelt service of let me help you if I can help you. And so I just so appreciate you, and I so appreciate the vibe and the approach that you have. And I'm so pleased to have met you as well. So tell me a little bit about how you got started. I know if you're watching the video, you're going to see Robin's book behind him, but really, how did you get started in this area, and how did you design this method that you help your clients with?
But my story does start a while ago. It starts a quarter of a century ago when I trained as a life coach under the tutelage of Tony Robbins and his organization in California in 2001, over those 2 years. And at the time, it was an invitation-only thing. He has a fully fledged coach training business now, but at the time it was with a view to working for his organization as a coach. And anyway, as things turned out, his plans changed, my plans changed, not least because I'm British and I didn't want to move to San Diego to be on part of his team then. And in any case, his plans were in flux at the time as well. So it didn't quite happen in the way that we thought it might. So I set up as an independent life coach here in the United Kingdom with my young children. And as luck would have it, 2 or 3 years later, I became a single parent, and I decided consciously to park the coaching business and focus on raising my kids because they were quite small, and I wanted to give them my undivided attention. Cut forward then to 2019, and I'll spare you what happened in between, except to say I was sat in a coffee shop, and one of the things that had happened in between was I had been studying for a degree. Well, using the British Open University, and the coffee shop stuck with me was my older brother, and I was bragging, I got my degree, and he wasn't very interested. He was quite bored. In fact, he was getting ready to leave, and I thought, oh yeah, that's classic siblings for you. So I thought, I know, I'll give him something that'll interest him. So I said, mind you, trust me to take 10 years to do something I should have done in 6. And his eyes lit up and he went, yeah, why was that? I thought, oh, here we go, that got him. So I thought, okay, it was procrastination. And I laughed and he laughed and we changed the subject. Anyway, so that was that. And then when I was driving home, I was thinking, wait a minute, Robin, you're a trained life coach. I mean, I was having a conversation with myself. I'm obviously the best people to speak to is yourself. And I was like, you're a trained life coach. How dare you procrastinate? What are you talking about? Your clients never procrastinated. Of course not. How dare you? And I thought, yeah, I really need to square that circle. What am I talking about? Why did I even say that? And I thought, hang on a minute. And then I asked myself 2 coaching questions, because once you've got the training, you never forget it. Coaching question number 1 is, where else in my life does this behavior show up? And the answer was absolutely everywhere. I couldn't think of an area in my life where it didn't show up. Second question was, what does it cost me? And by the time I got home, I rattled off in my mind a very fast list of all the things that had been impacted by my chronic procrastination. I'm not talking about, I'll do the dishes later, I won't do them now, that kind of procrastination. I'm talking about debilitating daily, I'll do it tomorrow procrastination on the really important things in life. And I thought, well, it's cost me so much. And I was really, really angry with myself and really, really upset. And I called my brother, and who used to be a mental health professional. I said, oh, just remind me. And I had a little mental pen and paper in front of me. Just remind me, what was the cure again for procrastination? It seems to have slipped my mind. And I've done all this training with Tony, and I'm sure he talks about it. I'm sure he covers it in great detail, which of course he does. But I can't quite put my finger on it. And there was a silence at the other end of the phone, and then eventually a sharp intake of breath, and I don't really know. And I thought, well, crikey, if you don't know and you're a mental health professional, I don't know because I've studied this stuff for decades and I've trained with it all. the heck's going on? I kind of know some of the strategies, but what is it all about? And then the gift that kept on giving arrived, COVID. And of course, I mean that in an ironic sense, but it meant that we were all in lockdown and I had even more time on my hands and even more tomorrows to contend with. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to find out. So I started researching. And the first thing I discovered was that the research was massive that was already out there. For example, in one 10-year period in the early 2000s, over 900 research papers had been done into procrastination. I thought, well, I don't need to do any new research. It's one of the most researched areas of psychology in the world. But what I can do is I can bring the disparate strings of it together. And I started to write down and take notes. And I wasn't writing a book. This was for me. I wanted to understand. And I realized because of my recent skill sets that I'd acquired doing a degree, which was in the arts and humanities, philosophy, psychology, history, which is my real passion, I decided I know how, I did instinctively know, I'm trained to look at the research. But I have to stress, I discovered it's science. And there's neuropsychology, psychology, neurology, neurosciences. I'm not a scientist. In my last year at school, I took my biology exam. I got 9%, Candy, and that was because I couldn't understand it. And I asked my teacher who'd marked it afterwards, how did I get 9%? I don't understand. And he said, well, you didn't answer any of the questions, Emdon. And I said, no, I know I didn't answer any of the questions. That's my point. And he said, yeah, but you spelt your name right. And I felt sorry for you. And I laughed. I said, okay, fair enough. And I knew that I hadn't answered the questions for a reason, which was every single biology lesson I'd ever had, the information had gone then one ear and then straight out the other ear, and it did not stick in the middle. I could not retain the knowledge. Just me and sciences, and also foreign languages, much to my shame, don't stick. But arts and humanities, yeah. So I thought, okay, but I'm clever enough to read the science and look at the conclusions and then turn it into plain English, to write it down in a way that I can understand. And I realized if I can understand it in plain English, then maybe other people can too. And that's how I started to write the book.
So I am going to ask about the book and the structure of it and what you go through. But the place that I want to focus on before that is, that defining moment of coaching yourself and then going, no, I can't believe that I have allowed my life to take this path.
I call it my facepalm moment.
And we all have those. And as you were describing that, I procrastinate often, not always, but often, right? And it reminded me of when I was thinking of becoming a coach. It took me 10 years to sign up for coach training. And that right there is just such an indication. And I appreciate you sharing your story about it because it's such an indication for how many of the people who are listening to this episode, how many of them are saying, oh my gosh, I'm procrastinating. It's costing me. It's not just the dollars and cents. It's your life. It's the quality of your life, right? So just really wanted to reflect that back to you, that it's such a relatable story. And I think that anyone who is listening, if you look honestly at your life, you've had a similar experience. And so thanks, Robin. I appreciate it. Can you tell me a little bit about what you learned? You took all these papers, you brought them together, you read everything and created this body of work for yourself. What was in it? What's the nut of it?
So up to that point, I had always thought of procrastination in the same way that people used to think about a common cold. It's different now. People think a common cold could be something much worse, obviously. But before COVID, when most people get a cold, they just work through it. And I was one of those. Oh, I've got a cold. Oh, I'll work through it. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'll work through it. I thought of procrastination in exactly the same way. Oh, I'm procrastinating today. Oh, don't worry. I'll do it tomorrow. Hello, I'll do it tomorrow is the procrastinator's mantra. And I did not pick up on that. And you just said something you just said about, it's not just the cost in money, it's the cost in time. Well, there's a very big difference between time and money, which is money is an infinite source. There's an infinite source of money. You can always make more money. Governments print money. They literally print it when they need more money. And you can make more money. There's always ways to find to make more money. But what you cannot print more of, you cannot make more of is time. And procrastination is the thief of time. And if you have procrastinated a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years of your life away, as I was realizing I had done in certain areas, that's time I can't get back. And so you've got to catch it before it happens, which was what I started to put, which is how the book is structured. It's designed to deal with that. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let's go right back to a very fundamental thing, which I discovered very early on. We all are hardwired to procrastinate. It's natural. It's biological. It's neurological. It's in our DNA. It's actually human behavior. And you think, well, you might think that's a bit far-fetched. I mean, I know people that don't procrastinate or don't procrastinate enough for it to be a problem. Sure. Those are people that have very slightly different mindsets. They've got, they have behavioral things that they've learned maybe from a young age, maybe instinctively, so that procrastination doesn't impact them the same as other people. But in fact, the research said 95% of people who would agree to say whether or not they procrastinated said that they procrastinate sometimes. Of those, 1 in 5, 20%, are chronic procrastinators. Now, the 95%, which is the majority, that's okay. So what if you don't do the dishes straight away? You'll have a dirty, you'll be annoyed later when you don't have any clean dishes to eat off. It's not the end of the world. But chronic procrastination, 1 in 20, that's a lot of people. A lot of people. Not 1 in 20, 20%, sorry.
That's 1 in 5. That's 1 in 5
It's 1 in 5. Yes, exactly. It's a lot. So, but we're hardwired. And the reason that what the research found, or what I learned from the research, is that your brain has 2 centers that we're interested in. And pardon me for going a little bit into the science, but remember, I know nothing about science, so I'm really just keeping it very simple. In the very center of our brain is the limbic system. And the limbic system, in simple terms, it's the oldest part of our brain in evolutionary terms, and it's what causes us to fight, flight, or freeze in times of danger. And it's instinctive. And if you think about it, your brain only has 2 jobs. 1, your survival. 2, your procreation. That's it. Everything else is, living life. But your brain's job is survival, breathing, heart beating, eating, sleeping, and procreation. That's all your brain is designed to do. And the limbic system does it without thinking. It's instinctive. It's instantaneous. If you see a man-eating tiger coming at you, you're going to run before you get a chance to think. You're just going to run. But equally, I mean, I don't come across too many man-eating tigers in my life these days. I live near a zoo. I could go and see one, but I still wouldn't feel very threatened because it's safely behind bars. But I get regular emails that upset me. I get, bills, all the things in life, other people's, your relationships, your key relationships, arguments with your loved ones, health issues, your own health issues, the health issues of loved ones, things that stress you out all the time. They all trigger what's called your threat modality, which all begins in the limbic system. And when you're in your threat modality, active survival mechanism, you can't be very productive. You can be very reactive. You can move fast, but you're not going to be very productive in a reasoned, rational way that you might need for your day-to-day business because you're in threat mode and you're dealing with it. And you go there really fast, in a heartbeat, literally in a heartbeat, and then your heart's beating like crazy. Getting out of it is harder because it's everything shuts down. Your whole body shuts down everything it doesn't need except what you need to run or to fight or to freeze. Then there's the other part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is along the front here, which if you're a student and you're under 25, it's frustrating as heck because it's not fully developed until you're 25. And it's interesting, isn't it, that most of the research projects of all kinds in the world go on at universities. Who do we find at universities? In vast numbers.
Yes.
Students, right?
Yeah.
Who procrastinates in vast numbers? Students. It's not a coincidence. It's partly lifestyle because they've moved away from home for the first time. They've got freedom and they've got too much freedom and they don't know how to organize their lives yet. But it's also they're not able to think quite as rationally as they will do when they get older because their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. But in the prefrontal cortex, you have your rational thinking. And then I thought, okay, so how do I explain that in English? Because so far I've explained it in very loose terms because I'm not an expert. How do I explain it in English? And what I discovered was when I was digging deeper into the neuropsychology, not the psychology, the neurology. That's the word. You see, I'm hopeless with any word. I'm amazed. I called my book Get Resultsology. There's a reason for that, which is it's all about, I looked at the science and then the book is a method. But what I found out was that in order for you to be highly productive, you need what I call the productivity trifecta. And they are 3 neurotransmitters. Now, if you're anything like me who doesn't have a background in science, even as I say that, people can't see it, but my eyes are glazing over. If you can see me, literally, it's like icing on a cake. What did he say? That he just suddenly mentioned a long word. Neuro what? Neurotransmitters, right? Not good. But I'm going to tell you them anyway. In order to be productive, at your most productive, peak performance, high productivity, you need these 3 things present: dopamine, noradrenaline, and acetylcholine. You can wake up now, unless you're a scientist, in which case you're saying, oh, why is he simplifying?
I'm a scientist, so this is all good. I'm all happy.
Yes, but I'm struggling with it already. So I thought, okay, how do I write this in English so that I can understand? Remember, I wrote this for me to begin with. I thought, okay, what do each of those neurotransmitters do? And what I discovered was that they had very distinctive properties in terms of my behaviors and the way that I think and how my brain operates. So I called the dopamine, I called them the conductor. And the conductor sits in the prefrontal cortex like the conductor of an orchestra. And the conductor of the orchestra brings all the disparate instruments that make an absolute cacophony of awful sound. That's what cacophony is, dreadful sound. And they give them the music and they train them and they harmonize them until they make the music of your life. That's what the conductor does. Or the music of your day-to-day routine working and your non-routine working, all planned out, all carefully thought about. Captain of the ship is another one that you could use. I went for conductor because that worked better for me. That's dopamine, and there's a whole chapter on the dopamine because dopamine is a very famous neurotransmitter in the non-neurotransmitter world. It's quite a famous one, dopamine. It's the fun neurotransmitter. So then the other one is the scholar, and the scholar is acetylcholine. It took me a year to learn how to pronounce that, and it took me another year to learn how to remember it because I'm just hopeless. Acetylcholine is massively present when we're children. Now, maybe you know some children, maybe you were one once. I think I was once. The thing about children is, young children in particular are absolutely fantastic at focusing. Now, you may think, oh, no, they're not. They get a bit of gas and boom, they're focusing on that. And they're not focusing on the thing they were focusing before. That's true. They're very easily distracted, but they're also brilliant at focusing. How many times did I watch Cars with my eldest son when he was little? Hundreds, because he wanted to see it again. And he sat glued to it the whole time. Christmas presents, give them a nice box with a lovely toy in it. They chuck the toy away and they play with the box for hours, right? But very focused. And it's because it's part of our instinct. It's part of our survival instinct. Children, or even though children take a long time to go from helpless to being able to help themselves, at no other point in your life do you learn language so fast. Do you learn to walk so fast? Do you learn to speak and to communicate so fast? It all happens really, really rapidly. So that later in life, when you want to learn those skills again, perhaps you've had a stroke or something and or I hope not, but perhaps you've had to learn them again, or perhaps you just decide intellectually you want to learn another language, or perhaps you decide, there's something like that going on. It's much harder. And that's because acetylcholine is not naturally present in adults. We produce it on demand, but we don't have it just in our system like children. And I can tell you how you know you produce it. Well, how do you know when you are the scholar and you're focused? It's like if you sit down to do something that you concentrate on and you look at the time and you think, right, I'm going to do this. And you then are focused for, say, 5 minutes. And then you look up and you think, oh, gee, I wasn't hungry 5 minutes ago. I'm really hungry now and I need the bathroom and I need a break and I'm tired. And wait a minute. That wasn't 5 minutes. That was 5 hours. You lose track of time. No wonder I'm hungry. No wonder I'm, all of those things. Because the acetylcholine kicked in and you went straight into the groove. You were focused. And that's the groove of concentration. So you need to be in there. So that's focus. And the third one is the fun-sized warrior is the noradrenaline. The fun-sized what? We all have the big warrior, the cortisol is the neurotransmitter that comes out then that triggers the run fast from the tiger, or you just run, right? So the point being is that you don't want that. You don't want the warrior because the warrior is stress. You're threatened. You're in fight mode. And if you happen to be a soldier, that's a very useful thing to have. But for day-to-day living, you don't want to reside there if you can. It's very stressful on your body. It's just as stressful on your mind. But what you do need is you need a little bit of agitation, just a little bit of stress, a little bit of anxiety. People can't see me if they're not watching on the video, but if they can see me, they'll notice that I'm leaning forward. Now, if I was leaning back and relaxed, I would completely lose my train of thought and I can't remember what I was talking about. But I don't do it as much when I'm leaning forward because I am just that little bit stressy, a little bit anxious, a little bit, and I'm on the case. That is the fun-size warrior, just a little bit of stress. As James Clear says in his Goldilocks rule principle, not too much, not too little, just enough. And that's why the fun-size warrior, like a fun-size chocolate bar is how I remember it, because I like fun-size and I like chocolate bars. But the fun-size warrior. So you need that as well. So when you put the three together, the conductor for organized, rational thinking, and getting everything, your ducks lined up in a row. The scholar for focus and the fun-sized warrior for just that little edge of, it's a burst of energy, if nothing else. Then you will be in the peak performance. And the whole book is designed to get you into that place and keep you there.
So then that's part of the triad. And the thing that is the absent part is do this while minimizing your cortisol, right? Like that's as soon as you're stressed, then you can't even get close to your triad. Right?
And yes, and it's an absolute productivity killer.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many of us live continuously stressed, especially these days with the news cycles, right? So it almost starts there, right? It starts with, okay, manage your stress first, and then now you can sort of walk in the door of the way to get.
So I've been on a journey myself. So since I've started practicing what I preach, I've noticed two changes in my behavior, and I'm not making this up. First, I've noticed that I have dropped 56 pounds of weight. Why? Because I didn't want it anymore. I was just like, what's this doing here? That's got to go. I didn't use none of these fancy new injections. I just decided I don't want that nasty stuff. I won't use the word in my life anymore. I just dropped it. And that was because I was spending so much more time being productive. My confidence had gone up. My self-esteem had gone up. I was just getting on with things. And I'm like, I don't need that weight anymore. It can go. 56 pounds. And I did most of that in about 3 or 4 months. And it won't go back on. It's just not an option. And the other thing, I used to watch the news obsessively, and I still do check in on it every day. So I am aware of what's going on. And every time I watch it, I'm like, why am I watching this? So I tend to have box sets. I like, when I'm working from home and I can't go out because I really need to be at home. But I want to have a break for half an hour. That I could go for a walk. There's so many things I can do. One of the things I like to do is watch TV. So I put the TV on, and the news might be on it. No, I'm not watching this. Turn it off. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw it. There's a lovely movie by Steve Martin called Roxanne.
Gosh, an old classic.
Yeah, it's a brilliant movie, and there's a lovely little scene where there's no lines, but there's a scene where he walks past one of those old newspaper vending machines. He puts his dime in to get a newspaper out, takes the newspaper out, reads the front page, which it's all, we're watching all this from a distance. You don't know what he's read, and then he just starts screaming and screaming and screaming. Oh my God. And you can see the news is really distressing. He reaches in his pocket. He gets another dime. He puts the money back in the machine, and he puts the newspaper back in the machine and walks off as happy as he was before he started. And it's a lovely illustration of don't watch the news, don't read the news. And I mean, the reality is that the news is very distressing for any number of reasons, for all sorts of reasons. But unless you're personally involved in it, you can't change it personally.
What I like about the way you've described it is, yes, of course we have the theory. Yes, there is a basis in science. And you have taken the time to make it real, to make it a much more human approach, something that somebody can read and put to practice in their life.
Yes. So I broke the book down into 3 sections very deliberately. And I discovered this quite early on in the process. And then it was just a case of I need to fill in the gaps because I could see where it was going. Section 1 is understanding, which is in another language, it's teaching people to fish rather than just giving them the fish. My brother is somebody who's his personality is give me the fish, I just want it to work. But I'm the opposite of that. I've got to have the detail. I'm a detail junkie. I want to know what's going on. I want to know about the neuropsychology, even if I don't understand it. I want to get some grasp of it until I do, and I'll keep going at it until I understand it. And I'll go away, and I'll come back with the conductor, the scholar, and the fun-sized warrior, because now I understand it in a way that makes sense to me, and I hope makes sense to your listeners. But there's a very deliberate reason for that, and I've covered it already. I've already said it. If you lose money, you can always make more. If you lose time, you cannot get it back. And procrastination is a thief of time. So if you get to the end of today, the end of tomorrow, the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the year, in my case, the end of 2.5 decades, and you realize, 2 decades when I had the realization, my face palm, that you have lost so much time to procrastination and the consequences of that, can't get them back. Can't go back to being 20 years younger and start again. Can't go back to having my relationships that were 20 as they were 20 years ago, my children as they were 20 years ago. None of that's an option. It's gone. You've got to keep moving forward. But so the first thing you've got to do is if you are procrastinating, you have to catch it before it's if you're doing it right now, you've got to deal with it now. And so by understanding it, you can understand, I'm procrastinating. I know why I'm procrastinating. I'm stressed about something. I'm feeling stressy. I think I need to turn the news off. I think I need to turn my phone off. Maybe I should just, one of the things I do is I just do like 5 minutes of work just to get started, because I know that otherwise I'm not going to do anything, right? Another things I do, I'm giving you some tips here, some strategies, which is another one is actually strategize your day. Just lay out your day, create some routines, some what I call brain dead work, as in you don't have to think about it. It's pre-decided because that's less stressy. And if it's less stressy, you're more likely to do it. And then you can build up to doing some of the things that are going to be more stressy. And our book has lots of ideas about how you deal with those things as well. But that's the second section of the book, is the strategies, because once you understand it, then you need some strategies. So I looked for the best strategies, the ones that are tried and tested, researched. I've used them myself with clients over the years. I've used them on myself. Now, I must say, behind me, I have a cupboard full of planners and journals and schedulers that are all designed around being more productive. Now, please note, I said I have a cupboard full. They don't belong in the cupboard. They're in the cupboard for a reason. And the reason is they were all brilliant. They all worked. And then they stopped working. And I thought, hang on a minute. So these strategies, 2 things I discovered or realized. I didn't discover this. This is a statement of the obvious. No 2 people are the same. So why would there be one cure-all strategy for everybody's procrastination? If only, I wish, there isn't. There's no cure for the common cold, because there's so many varieties of the common cold. There's no cure for it. And there's a reason for that, because there's so many. So with the common procrastination, it's hardwired into us. It's biological. And B, it's something that we just have to learn how to strategically manage. And then you've got to find the strategies that work for you. So some of those planners work really well for a while. And if anybody says to me, I recommend this, I recommend that, I take them at their word. But I may have tried them myself, probably sometimes for years, but they still are in the cupboard.
Right.
And so the third bit that I got to with the book was the missing element, momentum. Because what we've been talking about so far is another motivation. And there's a lot in the book about how to get motivated. And I cite some brilliant examples and some wonderful sources for that, about technology and that's out there, that's researched and thought about. Motivation is highly important, and I talk about that at length. But without momentum, the motivation isn't quite enough. You need to get momentum. And that's where I came up with, it's not actually in my book, I talk about it, I summarize it as do it today, profit tomorrow. And you will profit tomorrow if you do things today consistently.
Robin, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. And you've covered a lot. You've covered topics that I already understand, but I didn't understand them in that way. And so I appreciate learning from you and the wealth of knowledge that you have brought. Can you tell the audience how they can find out more about you, about your book?
Sure, love to. All right, so connection-wise, it's easy. Just come and find me on LinkedIn, Robin J. Emdon. I'm the only Robin J. Emdon on planet Earth. So you shouldn't have too much trouble finding me on there. But the book. So I'm not going to, although I've been talking about the book, and if you want to buy the book, please go and buy the book. It's on Amazon. However, I don't need you to do that. I don't and I don't necessarily want you to do that. You can get it from me as an unabridged PDF, completely free. I'm giving it away because it's not actually my business. My business is, I realized that the most powerful thing that I could possibly do to help people was offer them accountability coaching, because of all the strategies that I came up with. Accountability kept coming back again and again and again. It works for students. It works for adults. It works for managers. It works for minimum wage employees. It works across the board. It's the most powerful strategy you can have. And I thought, well, that's why my coaching worked. I want people to be able to get the book. It's a self-help book. You can have it with my pleasure. But if you get the book and you read the first chapter, at the end, there's a little pledge for you to sign. Email me your pledge. I respond. I always respond. I read every email. That'd be my pleasure.
Thank you, Robin. That's very generous of you. I appreciate it. And I have a copy of the book. So listeners, I highly encourage you to download that copy, read it, do the pledge, and take action today. All right, everyone. So that was this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, and I am looking forward to talking to you again next week.